have a very special conversation coming up for you. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And this is an impromptu conversation about who we are. Who am I? Who are you? Let's go find out. I'm going to bring my co-conversationalist into the house. Hello, Allison. Welcome.
Hi, Lydia. How are you today?
I am doing great, and I'm really excited to talk to you. So, we've talked a lot, and one thing that we talk about a lot is kind of our emergence onto the scene, and our emergence into the family of humanity, and what that was like for us, and how it changed as life went on. Why and so you know my question is, who are we? Who are we actually when we come out of the womb? And are we that same person later? Or what makes us not know who we are? You and I know that you have a lot to say on this subject. So.
Yes, I do. And it is that one question that, and I don't want to use the word all because that's obviously not true. Some people probably don't struggle with this, but for the most part, for the people that I've known, I've gotten close with, had intimate conversations with throughout my lifetime, who am I? Is one of those big questions. Who am I and why am I here? What's this all about? Those are all the same question, because it's about how we relate to all of this. And when we don't know who we are, we don't know how we relate. And we need to know who we are so that we know how we relate to everything that's going on in life. And it's just that big conundrum that, some of us are lucky that we had families or parents or situations that taught us these things younger in life. And some of us, we're in our 50s, 60s, 70s. Sometimes we never figure it out. Who am I?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's part of it might be part of being alive. It's definitely part of being human. Oh, all the different languages, all the different religions, everything that we have in humanity has all started with a place of people, whether they were by the water, or in the sands, in in the woods, on the mountains. We all asked, who am I and why am I here? And how do I relate to what's around me? And we came up with different languages to ask those questions and to communicate with one another. It's just been a part of humanity, and part of how we've created religions. Who am I and how do I relate to this? Oh, there's something bigger than me, and I relate to it in this way. And lo and behold, religions came along. There's there's something that now we kind of cheapen in that. And like, here you are, little baby, little girl, little boy, little munchkin that I love, and you are going to be nurtured in how to do the family business, or you are going to be really smart because your dad and your grandpa are really smart, or you're going to get everything you need because we have prepared. And then the preparations go by the wayside because something in life happens, and the kid grows up saying, I'm not sure what's going on because I've gotten two messages. Or the kid doesn't want to do the family business or whatever it is the society is telling us. And then we start later asking, who am I? It's the
Mhm.
same thing over and over again. So I think this is just intrinsic to our humanity and also our present story right now, us as humans, us as women with our societal stories. So yeah.
Yeah. And you just make me think of something that I fall back on quite a bit. And, as a coach, you're always learning, because it's not what you know, but how you can communicate it. And everybody hears things differently. So you have to keep finding new ways. And I love telling the story about, hey, back in the day, back in the 80s when I got my college degree. Yeah, I'm that old. Um, I got a degree in psychology. And what they taught us back then is by the time you're 21, 25, your brain is set, cells don't divide anymore. This is why you don't drink when you're young, because if you drink and you kill the brain cells, you don't get any more. And you're stuck with what you've got. And that your personality is set by a certain point in your life. Some people said by the time you're 7, and some people say, oh, 21, whatever. But that once you had it, you were done.
Mm.
And so I've gone through so much of my life with that, we're stuck where we are. This is who you are. It's just who you are, and it is the way it's going to be. And now with all the new findings that are coming out through the genetics, through the medical, through the DNA research, through the neuroscience and the neuropsychology that they're working on. And the reality is that our brains continue to evolve and grow and create new connections throughout our entire lives. And until the day we stop breathing, we can learn. And if we can learn, we can change. And part of it is learning who you are and then deciding if you want to accept it that way.
Yeah.
And what works for you. And that's, to me, I think one of just the biggest ahas that I've had this year is really, as more and more people are beginning to understand neuroscience, they're beginning to realize we really don't know who we are.
Mm.
Because this, as I've been taught to call it, the shitty committee, is not who we are.
Yeah.
But for how much of our lives have we lived believing this was gospel? My thoughts were gospel. And the reality is 95% of my life, I'm working on autopilot. If I'm paying attention and work on being in the moment, I can maybe bump that up to 98% on a good day. But that 92% on my best day is not me, is not mine. It's what's been encoded up here. And until I accept that I've got to look at that and see what's up here and understand what's up here, and I don't have to know where it came from or why it's there, but, and I'm going on a rant here, but the example, how many kids will never eat anything green in their entire life? Where'd that come from? Some snotty-nosed kid at school did something disgusting with something green and said, we don't eat green food. And it became gospel for that person's life.
Yeah.
And how many things do we do that we have no idea why?
Accessing that memory is shocking for people sometimes when we say, I just remembered a thing that happened and it changed my life. And that's just the thing. If we can change in that way, that puts something in our brain so profoundly that it's encoded there, we can also change it to be whatever serves us. So you said it so well that I believe in change. I'm a change kind of person. I like change. I like uncertainty, because uncertainty is the sum of all the possibilities. There are way more possibilities in uncertainty than there are in certainty. but
Mhm.
we go through life being certain of certain things. It gives us direction. It gives us some foundation and some security.
Mhm.
But when we find that we're pushing against those things, we can change. And that's what learning is, that we can adapt, we can grow that gray matter up in our brains, and we can do it based on the other parts of us that are not really different parts at all, or part of the whole thing, but we ignore. That's our hearts and our guts. Yeah, when we have a feeling that something is not right, doesn't matter what's going on up in, where we think we live, it's not right. And when we adjust to that and adapt and say, okay, what is better for me, we find a better way. And that's learning, that's growth, that's change. And that's where I feel like we find who we are, but we still don't know what it means. We're so attached to finding meaning.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because, if you look back at as women, and I'm going to speak as women because we're both women here, but I know men have similar challenges, but throughout our lives, when we're little, we're a mother's daughter, we're a father's daughter, we're a sibling's sister. Then we become the big sister. We continually have these roles that change throughout life, and then we're a student, and then we're a college student. Then maybe we get married and we're somebody's wife, and we're a worker, and we're a mother, and we're this. And if you say, who am I? And you ask anybody, who are you? How do we normally introduce ourselves? Well, this is what I do for a living, and I'm married and I have 2 kids, or I'm a grandmother and we give details. Is that who we are? No, those are the circumstances of our lives.
Yeah.
And that's how shallow we have lived our whole lives. Because the answer to who we are is, oh, well, I work for so and so and I do such and such. And then
Right.
if pressed on the personal, here's my relationship and here's how many children I have or whatever. Is that who we are? And then there's that statement that says, oh, it's just the way I am. Okay, I get that. We all have things. It is the way we are. But what I've learned throughout all of this work is that, and the older I get, is that, there may be who we are, but then there's also who we choose to be. And that person that we choose to be doesn't negate who we are, because there are things about us that are who we are, and it's how we operate. And we were talking earlier about sometimes the things that other people might see as a flaw, that's our zone of genius.
Yeah.
It's what makes us able to see things that other people can't see, or do things in a way that other people can't do it. So for me, it's not as much asking that question, who we are, but for me, it's I used to say, well, one day when I become an adult, and I keep waiting, but I think it's somewhere when you get to that place where you're really comfortable in your own skin, you're an adult. Still doesn't define who we are,
Right.
but it gets you closer. But at the same point, who we are, that is what's there. But on a daily basis, I ask myself, is this who I choose to be?
Mm-hmm.
And in those choices, I get myself closer and closer to that place between who I am and leveraging all those strengths.
Yeah.
That might be seen as flaws and might be seen as problems for other people, but I see them as strengths.
Being able to adapt to these flaws, to these places where we break. Are we actually broken when we can fix ourselves? We're perhaps injured, but not broken.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many ways in which we identify ourselves. We have these personas that you were talking about, and sometimes we say, well, sometimes I'm this and sometimes I'm that. depending on, I need my downtime, but I also like to go out and be the life of the party. And those are personas. And there's the persona of the person who we are as an academic, who we are. And are we less of an academic when we're at home actually coming up with new things in the kitchen that are creative and based on a lot of background and are able to put that together? If that's something that we can do, is that not academic? Sure, it is. It's part of that. It's part of all of who we are, but yet we have those. That's us in the kitchen. That's us being the cook. That's us maybe being the wife. That's us maybe being the creative, whatever it is that we think. That's one of our personas. And then there's another thing that we may or may not come to in these terms, but we may, if we go to school and are asked, or there's the hero's journey, right? And every human has this hero's journey, right? But is there just one? Do we do we need to fit into one line? Do we have to fit into a certain mechanic that is that hero's journey? Or is it just, where have I been? Where am I going? What do I want? That's the thing that I think gets to me, to the heart of who am I, is what do I want? Because so many of us ask that question and we say, I don't know. I have no idea what I want. So if I
Yeah.
don't know what I want, then who am I?
And we go through life asking this question, who am I? And it seems like it's such a critical question, and it knocks us all off our feet multiple times throughout our life. But I wonder sometimes, is it really important to know who we are? And because we go through life evaluating everything about ourselves based on everybody else. It's that relation to everything and everybody else. And in my book, I talk about the 8 people that come into a relationship. And it doesn't matter if it's marriage, if it's parent-child, if it's whatever. We have 8 people that come in. And 99% of the time, our relationships are pretty jacked up. Just through experience, I can tell you that's been mine. You might have had some of that too. And if you look at the 8 people that come into every relationship, the who am I becomes less important. And so I start with who I am and who the other person is, whether it's your mother, your father, your sister, your best friend, your husband, whatever. Who are they? Well, if I don't really know who I am, I'm guessing they probably don't really know who they are. So who I am and who they are probably doesn't really matter, because we don't know. We don't know. So we're going to skip that. So then we go to who I think they are and who they think I am. Well, now we really got it a little, complicated, because what they think of who I am, if I can't figure out who I am, how do they know who I am? So let's not even focus on that couple, but that's a second couple that comes in, someone that thinks who we think they are based on our experience, not theirs. And then you get to the third couple, that's the pretzel couple. It's the one that goofs up, muddies the whole waters. Who we think they want us to be and who they think we want them to be. Now, this is built on this, who we think and what we think, and we've already explained we don't know. And if I don't know who I am and you don't know who you are, how can the person that I think you want me to be right? But that's what we do. And we go into a relationship and we live in that third couple, who I think the other person wants me to be, whether it's your boss, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your child. It's like trying to play Twister, and you got the mat, but you got the dial and it's got colors on it that aren't on the mat. And it's got body parts that aren't on the mat, And so you're trying to play Twister with directions that can't be followed. And this is where relationships gum up so desperately. And so many people fail at relationships because they get stuck in that third couple, the pretzel couple.
Yeah.
But when you get to the last couple, which is the one that I think is the important one, who I need the other person to be and who they need me to be. And that's where, if we can get beyond, because where you find the pretzel couples when people don't know what's going on, but when you focus on what you need in a relationship, that's when you're kind of digging down into who I am.
Mm,
Okay. Because as a human being, I need air, water, warmth, sustenance. Okay. That's who I am as a human being. As a daughter, what do I need? I need my mother to be nurturing and loving and teaching me things. I need my father to be teaching me what a man how should be respected, how a man provides and protects, how a woman nurtures and nourishes. And those are the things that I need. And if we go into each of our relationships, and instead of saying, what do I think they want from me? And what do I think I want from them? But really get to that point of what we need. And does this relationship serve me? I need my teacher to teach me. What do I need from my friends? What do I need from my spouse? What do my children need from me? What do my parents need from me now? And in the end, there's that Maya Angelou's quote, because in all of these questions, we come up with all the bad stuff. That isn't it easy to figure out what we don't want first and what's wrong first?
mm-hmm.
Ask somebody what's good about them, and you'll be waiting for a while for an answer. Ask them what's wrong with them, and you might as well take out a notepad and paper, and you're taking a long list.
Mm.
But when you get past that into what you need, then you're beginning to understand who you are, because now you understand what's in here and what you need to be happy, to thrive, not
Right.
just make it through the day, but to excel.
The need conversation is striking a chord with me. When we figure out that we need something based on, as you said, need our teacher to teach. We need a nurse to nurture us and to care for us. We need our father to show us how to support and how to be strong. We realize that those needs are built on expectations. And then as we develop further, those expectations are what we are not actually the root of what we need, although they're a part of it. But what do we really need? We need warmth. We need instruction. We need conversation, collaboration. We need nurturing. We need a side of the warmth and and if we didn't have any preconceived notion of somebody being a teacher or a father or a mother or what that meant, we might just realize that we need all these things in whatever way they come. We need all these things from a person with whom we're in a relationship. We need to know how to provide these things ourselves. And then do we come to the expectations again of, well, where am I going to get these things? And at some point we have to make an assumption of where we're going to get these things if we really need it, because we have to find our way to it. If we haven't had a father or mother in our life, if we haven't had a teacher, or if we haven't had these preconceived notions, where do we get these things? If we have had these preconceived notions and we expect these things, what happens when our expectations are challenged? Can we learn to get these things from another place? Can we learn to trust that another provider of that attribute will actually have the possibility of providing that thing that we need, even if the first provider of that attribute who we expected something from and they didn't provide because they left or they died or it just didn't happen. even though that changed, can we trust that it can happen again? There's so much in that need conversation that just bubbled up in me.
Well, and it's, we talked earlier before we started the recording, is about, you know, what we think inside and how isolated we are in here from the rest of the world. And I'll give you just an easy explanation, kind of analogy to this. When I was in college, I taking a class, I said I love studying the tests. They tested people to find out how people thought and all that. And if you put 50 men in a room and 50 women in the room, and this is going to blow some people's minds, but this is true. As women, we think one way. As men, they're wired a different way. And I'm sorry, it is that way, but it is what it is. If you put 50 men in a room, 50 women in a room, and we all say love makes the world go round, right? And especially as women, that makes so much sense to us. And you say, what is more important, love or respect? Out of those 50 women, 48 will say love. Out of those 50 men, 48 will say respect. And it is that simple that, and I'm using the male-female dichotomy because that's easy, because half of us are male and half of us are female in this world. But the reality is there's that dichotomy in everything, as to how people are wired and what they need. And we're all just a little bit differently. We're all different. But because we're all isolated up in here and we're too afraid to ask the question, do other people feel this? Do other people hear what I'm hearing? Do other people believe these things? In one way, we go through life believing everybody's just like us. And if I judge other people, I assume everybody else is judging me every moment of my life.
Yeah.
And in another way, I must be crazy. I must be the only one having these horrible fears and these horrible thoughts and can't seem to get around in what's going on in the world. And if we just ever slowed down and talked to people and opened up honestly, which is where I guess therapy and coaching and all of this stuff comes in, what we find out is we all are far more alike than we're different. We all have similar fears manifesting in different ways, but we all have fears. We all have assumptions we make. We all have all these things we go through life with. And just by saying, oh, well, that's a man, he's going to act this way, and that's a woman, she's going to act that way. No, that's not how it works. Because there's so many different attributes that we each have. And how many of them do we even know we have? Or have we been using and don't even know we have that and leverage it thinking everybody can do that, and then you find out they can't?
Yeah. And we take those assumptions, and with our own different attributes, some of our assumptions that we make, I mean, they're all meant to support who we are, who we don't know who we are, but we're to support that journey. And when there's something that is not as expected or not as we assumed, some people will say, well, nobody's predictable and nobody's able to be trusted. Other people will just say, that was an anomaly, and let's just keep going with the status quo. And it depends on what it is that supports us and because we are alike in that we need to have some sort of way in which we can maneuver in the world with who we are. If that means that we need to designate that everything is in fact very unpredictable, and that keeps us safe, then yeah, that's what we might do. And if it in fact is the other way, that that's an anomaly and still things are the way I believe, and that supports how we go forward, then that's what we're going to do. But we're still doing it for the same reasons, to support our path and to support our way of communicating, of finding one another and finding ourselves.
You know, and I think that the proof to this conversation is an important one to have, is think about all the books and the personality inventories that are out there.
Yeah.
And you know, I've had clients and I'm like, you know, you've taken all the personality, you've taken all the personality inventories, you've read all the books. What is it you want them to tell you? Well, yeah, she wants them to tell her who she is. But does those results on the test say who she is for her whole life, or does it say who she is at this moment? And since degree in psychology, I've been studying this my whole life. You know, you give me a personality quiz and you give me a chance to take it later, I'm going to take it later. And guess what? Every time it's different.
Yeah.
Because I'm constantly growing and changing. Does it mean I'm getting to know myself better? Or does it mean based on the circumstances I'm in at that time, I'm reacting to the world differently so that I can, as you say, survive through it? I don't know. And
Right.
maybe a little bit of both. Maybe a little bit of both. But in the end, it's not what happens that derails us. It's how we respond to it.
Bingo.
And those responses relate to everything else that's going on in our life. And if we're in a situation, let's say, you know, where I was raised in my household, it was a war zone. You didn't do anything right. There was something wrong with you all the time. Nothing was ever good enough. It was just that way. You know, you go through life questioning everything. Questioning, is this good enough? Trying to be perfect, trying to do these things. Okay. And there are times in my life when I probably was very dysfunctional. And fortunately for me, at some point I said, you know, I don't know what love is, but I want to learn. I don't know what it is to be loving or be loved, but I want to learn. And I want to choose, because we do get to choose in the end. If I ever do a TED Talk, the title is going to be, It's Always Been Your Choice. Because with our DNA and with what we've been exposed to and taught and learned our whole life and all our experience, we still can choose to rise above. So when you grow up in a family that doesn't say, I love you, that doesn't hug, that doesn't say, I'm so proud of you, oh, I'm so happy for you, but yet that's who I choose to be and have chosen since I was in my late teens and early 20s. I wanted to learn, and I've been learning, and I'm learning every day a little bit more and more. So I, you know, kind of in the Greek mythology, when you read all of the plays and the stories, there's a common theme that you don't really know who you are until your final act. Because the villain becomes the hero becomes the villain. You know, it's in that final act that gives you your measure of yourself as a person. So do we really need to know who we are? Or do we need to know our worth? Right. Is that search for who we are is because we're in search for our worth, which our worth can change as we change and as we grow and as we expand ourselves and our world. Who we are, we may never know, because that's DNA and experiences that we may never remember. So which is important? We spend our lives searching for something that is changeable, is malleable. So will we ever truly know the whole story? No.
To me, right now is what's most important. There's no point in saying that I'm going to, what's in the future is most important, because I may not get there, and that's okay. Right now, how I'm responding to what happened, and we are making choices all the time. We may make a choice not to make a choice and to have everything happen to us. It's still a choice. We are choosing. What where I find sometimes that we get stuck, some people more than others, some people not really much at all, and some people a lot, is in asking the why or the how. How am I going to do this, and getting really stuck in that process? Or why is this happening to me? Why do they act that way? Well, you're not them. You could ask them, but they may say, I'm not acting that way. When we get stuck in that outside process, as opposed to just what what I what I am doing, and what response I will have, not how am I going to do this. So when we actually let that happen, we tend to be more open to change, more open to how we will learn, as opposed to saying, I'm going to figure this out before I have the information. And why do these things happen to me? Why do, and I think, we all go through this at some point in our lives, and we either get stuck there or we don't. But why does this happen to me? Why do they do this thing that I wouldn't choose to do? We don't have enough information to answer that question.
That is so true. And most of us don't even understand the world we live in. Yeah, we have no clue what's going on out there most of the time. And there's that paradigm of life happens to me, life happens for me, life happens from me. And again, it's that matter of where you are in that spectrum of understanding how the world works. And when you don't understand anything about the way the world works, and it's all just a crapshoot, everything's happening to me. And when it's happening to me, I'm a victim because I have no control. I have no choices.
Right.
It just happens and I have to accept. And being the victim, it's not a good thing. It doesn't feel good. And it's not productive.
Yeah.
When you start realizing that maybe you do have some control and that you can lift yourself out of that victim space and start creating a life that's easier to live, that's when life starts happening for you. Hey, wow, I don't know how that happened. You bought the lotto ticket and it was, you got some money off of it. I don't know how that happened, but I'll take it. It happened for me. Okay.
Yeah.
I did a little action. It happened for me. Hey, something happened and it worked out in my favor. Life, even though I don't know what I'm doing, life is happening for me. This is good. It's still a serendipity, but at least we're seeing the benefits that come out of it.
Yeah.
But when we truly work on this conundrum, who am I? Why am I here? What is my worth? These are all the same question.
Yeah.
How do I relate to the rest of the universe? When I realize that life can come from me because my actions substantiate what I want the outcome to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're in alignment. And I know that I want this and I'm going to act accordingly, and it can happen. Not that it is guaranteed to happen, but it can happen. And then it does happen. That's not a coincidence. And that's when life is coming from you. It's, you can put all kinds of metaphysical stuff all around it with manifestation and this and that and the other. But it's a simple equation. I can do this, and this can happen. And when life starts coming from you out of that very simple linear equation, everything changes.
Yeah. And there's the and while it's a simple linear equation, it's not something that people see, or they see the places in between those actions, those energies. And that is another way to it. When we make it happen, then it happens more for us. It's kind of beautiful. If we never get there, it's hard to say what path to take. We can say it's there, but to say just do this, exactly do this, that often doesn't work for people. Manifest it in this way, and people say, I believe in it. I believe in manifestation. I've seen it work for so many people, but it hasn't worked for me. Probably that's not the way. That you're probably missing something, because it's assumed that you understand what the places in between are, but you have to find those places in between.
Well, and it's, people don't understand that it takes for life to come from you. It takes a belief
Yeah.
that what you want is deserved, and that it can be earned, and that it will work for you. It's a belief in a lot of different things. Where when these people teaching manifestation, they're saying, do this, do this, do this, and you'll get what you want. Well, you may believe that these are the steps, and you may believe you want what you want, but if you don't have the underlying belief of the deservingness, of the worthiness, and of the fact that not only can it, that it can actually happen to anybody,
Right.
that's it just happens. You go through life and things just happen, and people are like, how'd you do that? I don't know.
Yeah. Every one of us believes something, and that thing that we believe is what our life is. We may not know who we are, but for sure, if we believe that we're going to be hurt, we're hurt. If we believe that we are educated, we are, and we're going to continue to be educated. And if we believe that we get what we deserve and we need, then sure enough, we do. Whatever we believe that we deserve, we get. Every single one of us.
Yep. And there's that quote, and I use it all the time, and I believe it's Maya Angelou. It's, I know I'm somebody because God don't make no junk. I don't care what your faith is, or if you have no faith. We're here. We won the genetic lottery that we're here.
Right.
I'm just saying, my grandmother had to meet my grandfather. My other grandmother had to meet my other grandfather. They had to get married and have children to have my parents. My parents had to get married and or didn't have to get married, but they did, and had children. And all the genetic combinations and all the environmental combinations that go together to make each and every one of us are unique.
Exactly.
We're all different. Whether it's, you can take two identical twins, and maybe their genetics are identical, but their lives will be very different.
Yep.
Their personalities will be different. They may grow to different heights, to different statures. They may learn to do different things. And that's the environmental impact.
Yeah.
And so that's where we need to be aware that it comes from that place of understanding where we are in the world and how the world operates. And maybe we don't need to know exactly how that all works, but that belief and that faith that we are somebody and we are deserving. And that is one of the hardest things, especially working with women, to get them to understand, that whole love thyself thing. That's tough. You announce publicly and something, oh yeah, I love myself, and people are like, ooh, must be a narcissist.
Right.
Ooh, selfish, all stuck on herself, but how can you believe that someone else could truly love you and that you're worthy of love
If you
you don't
don't
even love
feel
yourself?
like you're fundamentally lovable, like you, yeah. If you can't love yourself, if you're not fundamentally lovable. And here's the thing, everybody is looking to belong and looking to be loved. We can't, and really to belong is to be loved. And yet we can't figure out how to belong. And the more we push against it, the more we push things away. But we all belong. We were born belonging. We wouldn't have been born if we didn't belong.
Mhm.
We are here and we belong just immediately by virtue of the fact that we are here. We belong.
And I would put it to people this way: when you want to know who you are, think about those times in your life when, just out of the blue, what you needed popped in to your lap.
Mhm.
You met somebody that had the piece of information you needed. You met somebody who knew somebody. You were frustrated, you said something out loud, someone overheard you and goes, "Oh, wait a minute, I got someone," or "I
Yeah.
got something."
Yeah.
Or, "Oh, you're sharing just something that happened to you and how heartsick you are about something. Oh, I've got this great book or a great podcast or someone you can talk to, and it's exactly what you needed."
Yeah.
We're all connected in that way.
That's right.
And how many people in our lives have given us some of the best advice and saved us in a moment of panic? And do we even remember their names or what they look like? We remember maybe when they saved us, but do we remember their names? Do we remember what they look like? Do we remember who they were? So maybe the important thing is knowing that you are somebody, and it's up to you to define what that means.
Yeah.
And that we do get to choose, that we have things that, I may have been born in America and English is my first language and I was culturalized as an American, Anglo-Saxon, whatever. Does that mean that's all I am? All I can be? Or can I learn other languages? Can I understand other cultures? Can I try to adopt and adapt to the beautiful things in other cultures other than the ones I was raised with? Yes.
And I'd say,
But that
yes, yes, you can. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the belief that you can, and the belief that you can feel however it is that you want to feel, and how we are, and how we make people feel, are all parts of of what people remember, how we're remembered, and how we remember them. It's all about how they made us feel or how we felt at the time. It's a journey. Enjoy it
Mhm.
or not. If you don't want to enjoy your journey, then don't enjoy it. But it is a journey, and how you feel is ultimately up to you. Might not be in the moment, might not mean that you don't have sadness, that you don't have hurt, that you don't have, we all have those, but you choose whether to stay in that, and that's part of who you are. Who I am is the choices that I make.
Mhm. It's the choices that we make and the way we choose to view life.
Yeah.
And, it's just an amazing thing that if we embrace that concept, how everything can change. We become the constant in our world and
Mm-hmm.
everything out there changes.
Yeah.
I saw a meme this morning. I was planning out my posts and I have one saved that one day I'm going to use. And it says, you know, you, you can insult me until I decide to value your opinion. Something like that. And it's so true because, people are always trying to bring you down to their level or take their drama out on you or make bring. And when you finally realize what you have control of is in here, and you
Yeah.
stop reacting to all that out there and allowing it to define who you are, it
Yeah.
becomes much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. uh I would say if we were gonna leave anything, leave anybody with anything in this conversation, that saying that it's okay to wonder who we are, but we are right now who we are by virtue of what decisions we're making and how we choose to perceive our world, what it is, the choices we're making, what to do and what to value, and what to allow to define us.
And I would say, if we think of King Arthur, the story of King Arthur, we can each be King Arthur. We're all born in a set of circumstances. We're all go through life with what's going on around us. But you have to believe you can pull the sword from the stone.
Yeah.
And when you pull that sword from the stone, then you've found what you can do and you can keep going. And it's for each of us, we each have that special talent. We each have that gift. Everyone on the face of this earth has a gift, has something to share, has something wonderful about them. And when we can find that thing and own it, like King Arthur could pull the sword from the stone,
Yeah.
then we can be everything that we have the capacity to be. And it doesn't matter if you were born poor or rich. There are plenty of people that were born with everything handed to them and ended up with nothing. They might have had a house and a car and money, but they had no friends, they had no love. They didn't like themselves.
Yeah.
And they abused themselves. There are people that are born absolutely destitute that rise
Mm-hmm.
and become voices that the whole world listened to.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So embrace your inner King Arthur.
We go through life thinking we are our circumstances. No, we're not.
Yeah. No,
It's
it
what we
does.
choose to do with the circumstances.
When we're little, it certainly shapes us, but
Mhm.
then we have a bag of tricks. We can use it.
Mhm.
I like my bag of tricks. It's useful to me. Well, Allison, we should wrap this up and
Yes, ma'am.
let these viewers ponder their own who they are. So on that note, thank you so much for chatting with me. It's always fun to chat with you.
The same, Lydia. You just have a beautiful mind, and I love the way it works.
I love your mind too. Well, thanks, Allison, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us for that conversation. And I don't have much more to say to you. It's great to be including you in the conversation, so you can leave your thoughts in the comments below. And just remember that you just need to believe in something, but you can change what you believe, and you can go along and make your way with what feels best. So please hit like, gently push the subscribe button, and I'll see you next week. Ciao.